This one is complicated and wise. Let's meet Ryan. Ryan Lloyd Eason lived a complicated and extraordinary life. Ryan was born with cerebral palsy, of which you'd have no idea due to the copious and intensive hours of physical therapy his mother took him to as a child. Ryan overcame his remarkable birth defects and went on to live a very normal middle sibling life. Over the course of it, he would join the Boy Scouts, try and fail at soccer, terrorize his older brother, together with his brother, terrorize their sister, get really into both Magic the Gathering and Pokemon, have a rat tail and own several rats, most of which died suddenly. We buried them by the compost. Ryan cried a lot about them. Have a ton of weird-ass friends, sometimes sleep under the desk of his guidance counselor at school, get in trouble for smoking weed many times, and almost barely, but somehow actually graduate from high school. Post-graduation, he moved out and then moved back, then moved out, then moved back, and then maybe got a girl pregnant, but didn't, then moved out and moved back several more times. He had a proclivity to throw tantrums better than most grown-ups. He fell in love with the same type of woman over and over, a woman who he would always allow to take advantage of him, and the life would leak out of him until he was a tiny shell of himself. Wow. But every time he'd claw his way back and become a magnificent glowing giant, a beacon, strong and confident, until another woman showed up who he'd give his heart away to. He moved to Thailand after he lost his heart to one such woman, and there he found his tribe. He never had to wear shoes, and he hardly had to shower, and he barely ever cut his hair and was covered in dirt the whole time, but he was more at home than he'd ever been before. He was surrounded by other people who had always also felt out of place, who also thrived with no shoes, and who also had adventure in their hearts. He started a circus. Of course he did, following in his father's footsteps. He found a small tourist town, a new place ready and waiting for magic. He brought his dad's magic act and his own fire show and the welcoming spirit of a fire dad, allowing anyone and everyone with an act and a dream to perform, to belong, and to give love the venue to do so. Any lost soul lucky enough to stumble into his presence immediately felt heard, felt seen, felt understood, and was given a home in the medicine circus. The beauty of this world is only beautiful because it is temporary. And as things go, the circus disbanded shortly before the pandemic. Ryan made his way home again and spent most of 2020 back in the Roaring Fork Valley. Ryan's brain was complicated and noisy. He argued with his thoughts and fought against faulty wiring for most of his 35 years. Though the rest of us could see and tried to explain and convince him of his importance, of his beauty, of his incredible mark on this world and the potential he had to change it, his brain would not allow him to hear it. He worried he was a burden, that he messed everything up, that he never did and could never do anything right. How remarkably unfair it is that he was able to accept and lead so many others, no matter the shape in which they arrived or their state of mind, and give them compassion, empathy, and love, but his brain couldn't allow him to do the same for himself. On September 8th, 2021, the noise in his brain finally drowned out the rest of us. His fight against his demons reached an end, and he died peacefully and intentionally in the only home he ever really had as his own. With him, he took a lot of decisions that didn't belong to only him. He decided he would never have a strong and healthy relationship with his brother, that all their bones to pick would be left unpicked, unsolved, unforgiven. He decided to RSVP no to his sister's future hypothetical wedding. He decided his death needed to happen before his father's. He decided his nieces would have 2 dead uncles. He decided his siblings would live for the rest of their lives as people who used to have a brother, now continuing on as a bicycle instead of a tricycle. His friends as people who used to know him, now forever left to just remember him. But with him, he also took charge of important decisions that could only be made by him. He decided that there was one solution that would finally totally work. He decided he didn't want to drag down the people he loved the most. He decided that the rest of his life on earth would be too painful, too full of suffering and worry that it was time for him to leave. The decision to leave is disappointing and heartbreaking to the people he left behind. His brain may not have been here in this place, but I like to think that in some ways he made a brave, strong, and contented decision. To decide that you've done enough, seen enough, helped and loved enough people that you're content to go on is striking. He wrote a note at the end. It was addressed to our dad. He said thank you and sorry, and he said he knew everyone would be relieved eventually by his decision. I do feel relieved. I feel relieved for him, that wherever he is now, he no longer has these demons to fight. I feel relief for myself too, and for my dad, and for anyone who was there for him anytime he fell to the bottom of his cycle. He couldn't fight off the thoughts holding him down there, and I couldn't help him. No one could, and we exhausted ourselves trying. I feel relief and I feel sad for future me, who in 30 years, when she's 60, might find it hard to remember Ryan's laugh, or the way he talked with his hands, or the way he called me buggin', or the way he called everyone else darlin', or the way he described things he liked as bitchin', or the way when he was up at the top of his cycle, his grin was so genuine and could light up everyone else, or the way he always smelled so effing smelly because he'd keep his cigarette butts in his pocket. I don't have a solution for this, really, and I know it's an unfortunate truth in life. What I know is that it's on us now to live for both of us, the bereaved and the deceased, us and for Ryan. We can aim to heal the holes by bringing magic to our everyday encounters, by calling strangers darlin', and also by giving ourselves grace when we are at the bottom of our own cycles and understanding that sometimes we know what we're doing and sometimes we eat cereal straight from the box and we don't clean our dishes until our dad says we should. Let's make this a damn good moment together. Wherever you are in your breathing, breathe out all the way. Now breathe in and give it your all. I always say this, but this might be one of the prettiest obituaries I've ever read. This is incredible. So the person who wrote this sent this to me, his sister, Kati. She said that she thought of sending it after she saw one of these videos where I shared an obituary for a guy named Connor who died in a drunk driving accident. And in the obituary, his mom said, "Don't be like Connor, don't be a dumbass." And Kati, Ryan's sister, said, "I think a truthy obit honors their memory more than waxing poetic about his smile lighting up a room, even if it did." I totally agree. I completely agree. I really need to add to this. This is tell it all. Tell it all. Thanks, Kati. Thanks, Ryan.